Hello and welcome to another For Wales, See Wales with me, Robin Morgan.
Me, Mel, Owen.
Me, Will Hayward.
And we're back in the studio.
Back in the studio. You're back from the high seas.
I'm back.
How does it feel? Do your legs feel a bit stable? Can you walk on normal land?
For a couple of days afterwards, you do sort of like sway.
sway.
Yeah, you sway
Do
for
you
a little
actually?
bit. Yeah, well, I do. I'm such a landlubber.
Loves that land. He does.
Yeah, I do.
Welcome back. It's wonderful to be back in the studio with you guys.
It is. It's still here. It's lovely.
still here.
Even
It
under
is.
applied government, it's still here, which is great.
Yes.
Although everything's now in Welsh.
Yeah.
Everything
It's
is
been
in Welsh.
imposed on us.
Yes, I've been trying for a while. Finally, the reader corner's
Yeah.
done it.
It is good to be back in the Heyman studio. Is this the first time we've seen each other since
Yeah.
the election?
Yeah,
In
actually,
person?
yeah.
Isn't that mad?
Obviously, in our live episode, we're going to do a lot of like election unpacking, right?
That's this weekend, isn't it? Saturday,
Yes.
Glee Club. Sold out?
Sold out.
Sold out.
You can't come, I'm sorry. Unless you are coming. You might see you there.
No,
I'll
so
see
you can
guys.
come because
Yeah,
you
please do
bought a
come,
ticket.
Actually, yeah. But no, first time that we're actually seeing each other post-election. I'm actually quite glad, I'm not going to lie, I didn't see you guys the night of. Because I was in a really weird way. It was just like, I found it really odd doing it in the daytime. The results.
yeah.
Because I'm so used to doing it overnight. The daytime one was really odd.
Was it more serious?
It was more serious, yeah. And I think there was more of a longevity to it in terms of as people were winning, they were coming in throughout the day.
Yeah.
You know?
Because you were in the belly of the beast, weren't you? You were you were at the BBC?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
doing like kind of analysis and things.
Yeah, I was. And you know what? I was going to say to you guys, like, I think I've become a right snowflake. I know, right?
What happened?
I was just getting my feelings hurt quite a bit, actually.
Really?
Yeah, and like it's really odd because I don't know if I was ever like this before. Obviously, reforms results were coming in, and that gave like a bigger conversation as to, you know, what is acceptable, what isn't. And as the day was going on, there were some talking heads, and I dare say even journalists, who were switching their opinions as the day went on.
Really?
And you were giving it always, you know, isn't it, you know, and I'm not, you know, I think I've made my opinions on reform quite obvious like throughout this podcast. But, you know, for the start of the day, some of them were very like, oh, you know, what does this really mean for our society and community? And as the day was going on, they'd be like, well, you know, we can't call them all racist. Like, we can't call everybody a fascist now, can we? And all this, that and the other. And there was a man who just started mansplaining or white-splaining fascism to my face. And I just walked away from him because I was like, I didn't start talking to you.
This wasn't on air though, what he was...
Darryl, get the clips.
Yeah.
There was one moment where I proper pulled a Britney, right? I went full Britney. I was
Shaved
like,
your head.
Very good, right? I was close. I was really like, I need to leave this building. Like, because I was like, I just need to go outside and like touch some ground.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So this is the first we're kind of, me and Robert, hearing this. So
Yeah.
paint a pitch. So those kind of studio like gigs are
Yeah.
basically, people are coming and going all the time. You've got politicians coming in, they've been sat down, you're kind of sat there because you're doing like analysis. So that
Yeah.
there's a lot of kind of turnover of people, isn't there? It's quite a, dynamic's probably the wrong word. It's quite an unrelenting environment, isn't it?
Yeah, and you're being pulled from one show to the next, and a radio show and another TV show and this, that and the other, which is absolutely fine. And for somebody who is a control freak, who like, I can only go with the flow if I know where it starts, middles and ends, you know. It was just a very, very, very stressful day. My family were actually down for something normal. They were like just having a nice celebration.
Yeah.
And I went to go and meet them out in town. It was really weird being like, oh, there's a normal world outside.
Yeah.
It was really weird going from that bubble into like normal life again.
Did it feel a little bit like, you know, when you worked for the Welsh Tories and you were in that political bubble where it's all, especially in this sort of campaigning mode, where
Yeah.
it's all anyone cared about?
It so was like that. And I think in a way, it gave me a little bit of PTSD of working in politics.
Right.
A little bit in terms of, because I'm self-employed and generally, like, you know, I can take what work I want. I can generally avoid working with dickheads. Do you know what I mean?
Present company accepted.
Yeah.
I was going to say the same thing again.
You
Will's-
too. It's one mind.
This is it. We've missed each other so much.
So
It's
much.
The boat.
Yeah, you've more. It is the boat. It's
the
done
boat.
this.
I love it.
You know. So and also, but I still would say like, oh, I still work in politics because I
Yeah.
do this with you guys. Do you know what I mean? But then it was like, oh no, this is a nice little bubble that we just chat.
We've spoiled you.
Yeah, you have spoiled me. And then I had to go and work with not very nice men. And then yeah.
So I find with elections where there's a change
Yeah.
from the status quo,
Yeah.
you tend to get two very contrasting emotions. You get really down, sad, end of the world people who basically their career and livelihood have kind of come to an end in the space of a day. You then get quite often people who are very buoyed, who are very exuberant and have got very little experience in the world they're about to go into, and feel, but because of a particular result, their entire worldview is justified. I went down to the Senedd for the first time since the election. I actually didn't have any kind of reason to go other than the fact I think it's important for the new MSs to see reporters around and understand that we are part of that infrastructure. Because there was more reporters at the Bay on that first week after than I've ever seen. There was I think I counted 17 of us in the canteen when normally there's not.
There's you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's me, there's BBC, there's ITV, there's Channel 4, but there's not in that kind of same numbers. You have PA and stuff as well sometimes, but it was just everyone who could have had a pass was basically there.
What was the vibe check then?
In those initial few weeks, you're having conversations with people for the first time.
Yeah.
Some of which have only ever really communicated with you on social media. And so I don't want to kind of go into every conversation I had because it's not fair on the people involved in the conversations. But what I will say is reality was dawning on people that they have to operate in this world that they have either been contemptuous of or that they are kind of, I would suggest maybe at this point, ill-equipped to deal with. The turnover of MSs was huge. Like most people in that Senedd have never been in it before.
Yeah.
And this is before they all have like 4 new staff each. I didn't leave it hopeful of like a hugely constructive next 4 years.
Okay.
But I also wasn't depressed. Okay. I think it's very up in the air, and I think that is probably what you experience as well, is this kind of state of flux where you've got hugely contrasting worldviews of many of the people in that institution now. Like the average Plaid Cymru MS has a very different worldview to the average Reform MS. There was people there who were quite clearly deeply hostile to me as a journalist,
right?
I think. But I kind of love that because...
Yeah, you do, don't you?
Well, this is one thing, actually, that I did kind of come away from there going, like, I don't know how Will does this. And what I would say is that anybody who thinks that we're pretty biased, there were a lot of people from many parties who were not happy to see me, put it that way.
Oh, no.
And I just think I'd reaped a lot of what I'd sown on the podcast.
Did your chickens come home to roost?
I think they might have, actually, you know? And I was like, I just don't know how Will does this.
It can be quite a lonely place working in the Senedd because I'm sat there and ultimately there are people from every party who actively dislike me because I've done my job.
Isn't that a mad situation to be in? Like you've done your job well.
Is not an executioner. Do you know what I mean? You're holding politicians to account. Sometimes that does involve executing them.
I think the hard thing with I'm not kind of woe is me as a journalist. I get much less abuse than a lot of the female MSs especially get. Like I get, and also I'm not paid by the public. Like, if I'm getting slagged off online, I can just block them. Fuck them, I don't care.
Yeah, true.
Whereas they're their constituents who like. But every decision you make as a reporter to report is ultimately a judgment call. I could literally write 50 stories today just on poverty in Wales. But you have to make a call on like what is like the priorities, what is of value to your readers, what's in the public interest to cover. And ultimately, no politician really thinks that they are in the public, covering them is in the public interest if it's negative.
Sure.
So they're all looking at you saying you have made a proactive decision to make me look a dick.
Is that something that they can justify? You know, there's certain politicians who have really pushed themselves into the public eye and are very, very happy to get the spotlights. How can they justify that if they're the ones who are like, well, I'll do all the talking heads, I'll do all this, I'll go on all the breakfast shows?
So you either become so self-entitled, you're like, how dare you even criticise me? Or you do what most of the more experienced ones are, and they're like, we'll take our medicine. Like, this is the world we're in. Like, that person is doing the job. I remember, what was it? Drakeford used the quote once. He didn't make it up. I can't remember who said the quote, but basically, the relationship between a journalist and a politician is the same as one between a dog and a lamppost.
Yeah.
Like.
Oh yeah, he said it on the podcast. Yes, he did.
Most of the experienced ones get it, but the new ones are like so scared.
But also, I suppose having that criticism dealt in a sort of real life environment as well, whereas I suppose, you know, some of the new ones might have just got it online before, whereas actually like dealing with this kind of stuff away from social media, this is what they're having to deal with now.
I suppose there's no lesson though of like how to be a politician. Do you know what I mean? You can't do a course in it.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So they might not even know what they might not even know if talking to you constitutes an interview. They're going to say something to you and that's going to appear on your newsletter the next day. Do you know what I mean? Like, there must be some people who don't maybe understand the dynamic because they've never done it before.
Do you know who has had a conversation recently?
Go on.
Rhun Iorweth and what's his name? Kier Starmer.
Oh.
Sir Kier
Sir Kier, who at time of recording
is currently the Prime Minister.
Nice. So there was a readout from the first conversation between the leader of the Welsh Government and the leader of the UK Government. I'll read you what the Welsh Government put out. The Prime Minister congratulated the First Minister on his appointment and stated that he is keen to establish ways of working based on shared interests. The First Minister responded by looking forward to developing a constructive relationship between his government and their UK counterparts. The First Minister made it clear his wish to negotiate on the Barnett formula, fair funding, borrowing powers, rail and further devolution. The First Minister noted a Senedd majority, including the Labour group, is in favour of enhanced powers. The Prime Minister confirmed that he would be open to conversations on powers relating to devolution and proposed an in-person meeting in June with the First Ministers of Scotland, Northern Ireland to discuss issues of relevance. The First Minister also sought cooperation on the impact of the conflict in the Middle East on the cost of living crisis and to continue an open dialogue. The First Minister also today had calls with the First Minister of Scotland and the First Minister and Deputy First Minister of Northern Ireland, all agreed to work constructively together in the shared interest.
So was that Welsh Gov or UK Gov that put that out?
Welsh Gov put that out.
Sure, okay.
And did they put that out first?
So they put that out first.
I think that's crucial, isn't it?
There was then some briefing from other people who were familiar with the conversation. Sources within the UK government basically briefed two journalists saying the First Minister also mentioned independence, but they didn't put out that on.
And is that just a little WhatsApp that they've sent by BT Dubs? This happened, or is that like a?
I don't really want to go into the details of how individual people communicate, but it was construed to several journalists, including myself, that
independence was
also mentioned. Now
it was Bebo Messenger.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, well, were you in it?
Yeah, I loved it.
Okay. I think the key thing to say about that, there is nothing wrong with the UK government making clear that the First Minister of Wales also mentioned independence, because it's a big talking point, and it was a key criticism by some of their opponents during the election that that's only Plaid's aim.
Sure.
I didn't report this initially, and the reason I didn't report this bit initially is because I don't know what talks mentions independence means. Because if say Rhun Iorweth says, I want this devolution, and also we are eventually aiming at Welsh independence. That's the long-term aim of our party, but we're not there yet. It's very different to I demand the powers to call a referendum on independence. Like mentioning independence to me wasn't enough for me to. But then other people reported it, so I was like, well, okay, I if it's been reported, I'll report it.
Sure.
And it's not just on this issue. There's loads of things that people from all parties say to me, which I don't report because I'm like, well, you just want me to say this? Like, give me more? Like,
yeah, give me the context. Yeah.
So I have been trying to establish what was actually said. And as I understand it, what was said was basically what was said during the election, is that independence is a journey and we want the people of Wales to come with us as far as they're willing to go. So it's basically, there was nothing new. Yeah. But I think it's interesting that they didn't put it in, the Welsh government did put it in their readout. I think that's interesting. And I think it's also interesting that the UK government want to make it clear that it was on the readout. So these are two different parties now, very clearly.
Yeah, and you can see the sort of the dividing lines, and you can kind of see where the argument's going to start coming, because I think that there are certain policies that I think Plaid and the UK Labour government will agree on, but from a UK Labour and a Welsh Labour point of view, then there needs to be some separation, right?
Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of a power struggle, for want of a better phrase, I suppose. How does it make you feel about Plaid? And I suppose this is probably Labour and the UK Gov's reason for doing this, so that we have this conversation. But like, had I been a Plaid supporter from day dot, and it was very, very clear, we want Welsh independence, that is our raison d'etre. Now that they've got power, and I know it's literally day one, right? But like, I don't know if I'd feel a bit betrayed that they're not even bringing it up in like, this is the conversation that we had with the Prime Minister.
I think it depends on priorities, right? And like everyone's going to be different within that party. I think you know, some people could go, well, this is absolutely my key reason of why I've joined this party, and everything else, cost of living, everything else goes underneath it.
Yeah.
Whereas I suppose some people will think this is the goal, but at the moment, shit's got to get done.
Yeah.
But I suppose it's whether you're sort of seen as like a serious grown-up party. Maybe similar things could have been said about sort of like Corbyn's Labour, which would have been like, well, these are the things we need to do now, and maybe priorities weren't there in the correct order. Whereas like get into government, make people's lives better.
Yeah.
And I suppose his argument would be, we're going to show, you know, after 4 years, we're going to show what we could do with another 4 years.
Yeah, I totally agree that maybe going in like a bull in a china shop, being like, right, independence now.
Yeah, we're tearing ourselves away.
It's not going to help anybody. And I kind of appreciate what you've said before, Will, and that the biggest argument for independence would show devolution working really well. So perhaps that is a priority. I just feel like when you look at, you know, the steps of the Senedd on that Saturday after the election, you had all those people breaking out into song and being like, we've finally done it. And then a bit, you know, the first conversation the Rhun is having with the Prime Minister as First Minister, and him not mentioning that he's brought up independence. I don't know.
So one more thing, I suppose similar conversations that Elena Morgan was saying she was going to be having with Keir Starmer, right? Those same kind of issues.
Yeah, there'll be people on the left is the wrong word, on the strongly independence, like the kind of the core Plaid supporter, who will be like, see this as Wales coming of age, got to push on for independence.
Yeah.
It's always a balance that political leaders have to make, is that their core vote will always be likely more extreme, for want of a better word, than the general electorate.
Yeah.
And the challenge for all political leaders is appealing to a broad bunch of people who aren't inclined to agree with them just on pure principle, while keeping happy those people who are the true believers.
Which I suppose they've done that in this recent election. I suppose also
for the first time ever.
Yeah.
I think most Plaid supporters at the moment, even the ones who are huge independent advocates, are still just giddy with the reality. There will be people within every party who don't deem the leadership to be pure enough.
Yeah.
And the idea of a political leader is to lead and navigate a path where you're keeping enough people happy to stay in power.
Which I suppose is, sorry to interrupt, exactly what Starmer's not done with Labour, right?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. The boats, it did it again.
Oh my God.
It did it again.
On boat time.
Boat time. And I think that is completely removing any party politics from it. Me, just as a Welsh citizen, wanting Wales to get the best possible outcome over the next 4 or 5 years, is that I would not want our First Minister to make the same mistakes that Keir Starmer has made. I think that's the biggest thing for me, you know?
Yeah, as we've said before, like they've got the blueprint of what not to do, right? And especially if you've run on change.
Yeah, I mean, we've spoken kind of ad nauseum about, so the fight about these kind of demands. So the points are, Barnett formula, we've discussed it before, Plaid don't believe it works well enough for Wales. We've discussed the Barnett formula and how they want fairer funding around R&D funding. They want borrowing powers to be extended for Wales to be at least applicable, same as Scotland. They want the devolution of rail, and they want things like the Crown Estate. What I found challenging as a reporter, I mean, I literally wrote a book on how the current system doesn't work and Wales needs these changes. And now getting these changes is the official policy of the Welsh government. And what I don't want to do is just sit there going, great stuff, Welsh government, really good, really impressive. Good, keep it up. Because I'm not saying that if Plaid got all these powers, they would do a good job.
Sure.
I don't know. No one knows. It's so early in the process. But I don't see how Wales can thrive and become what it should be without at least the same level of powers that Scotland has.
Yeah. Sure.
So Reform have really kind of nailed their colours to the mast in terms of where they stand on this. They don't want any more powers for Wales. They don't want it. And part of that is because, let's face it, a lot of them don't want the Senedd to exist. They don't like this idea of Wales having its own parliament. And there was a few things that I saw in terms of their messaging. So one of their MSs said, Wales is already failing on the basics. Our NHS is in crisis. Our schools are underperforming and our transport network is a mess. Totally fair. The last thing we need from Rhun Iorweth and Plaid Cymru is grabbing even more devolved powers to wreck another part of Welsh life. They've just moved in, sort out the foundations first, make the powers we already have actually work before pushing Plaid's election con of a ruinous independence fantasy. I don't know where he's going with this. Wales doesn't need more devolution, it needs more competence.
And there will be people who agree with that. There will be so many people who go, well, how about we sort what we're doing first?
Yeah, and
you know?
It totally depends on how you view more powers. Like, I don't think powers for power's sake is necessarily a good thing, but I do think rationalising and giving Wales as many tools as it possibly can. And because this thing of reform saying, I don't think Wales should have more powers, that says to me, we don't think we're ever going to be in charge here. Because if you think you're going to be in charge here, you want those tools.
Well, this is the thing, we've said that they didn't want to win the election. Do you know what I mean? This is the dream for them. This is the dream. They get to be now in opposition shouting about what's going on.
Yeah. I can't get my head around somebody who represents people in Wales who says, I don't want Wales to be better equipped to deal with problems.
Do you think the communication behind these, and obviously you're doing an incredible job doing this, but like the levers that was mentioned a lot in the run up, for me, a politics nerd, of people like, we don't have the levers to be able to do this. Elena Morgan said it, Slaughter said it, like a lot of the parties who were trying to I suppose get into government were saying that. For the man, the woman, the person on the street, then they're going to be reading that reform thing and going, well, yeah, we should sort our NHS. Why are we doing all this kind of stuff? And I think that there is such a deficit in terms of understanding about that. I think I think if Plaid can really hammer that messaging home, because if that's all the stuff they're asking Starmer for, or that these are the conversations that we want, I think you'd have to be really, really, I suppose, positive to assume that they're going to get all of those things, and maybe not 100% of each of those things. They're going to get like maybe a couple of the handouts. I suppose that's the thing. You know, if Plaid is saying this is what we're going to do, we're going to be calling them non-stop. If you then only get half of them, what can you do? How can you then make people's lives better? I think that's the ramifications of. And also they're going they're being broad in terms of they're not saying
they're giving themselves wiggle room for negotiation.
Yeah, but I mean, like if we do get a bit of what Scotland gets on points 3 and 5, will that help? It'll help a little bit, but is it going to be fairness you can feel, Will?
I think a lot of politicians get in their head, the public don't care about constitutional matters, and we need to keep our messages really simple. You don't have to be simple, you have to be clear. I think most people in Wales get that Wales has been screwed over on HS2 now. I don't think they could tell you about comparability factors and Barnett consequentials and devolution of rail, but I think they know, so in their head, that project is screwing Wales because it's been said enough and it's been said clearly and it's been said over a sustained period of time. If I was a politician, the messages I would be saying is Wales can borrow less than a council. And I would be also making the point of give Wales what Scotland has.
That's 100% the message. Scotland gets this, Wales gets this. Scotland gets to go to the World Cup. We don't even get to do that.
Yeah.
That's point 1.
Yeah, swindog. People don't like clear injustices. And the fact that Scotland demonstrably has a better deal in so many ways, I think is something you can hang your hat on and say, why? Why is Scotland allowed to spend as much of its own money that it carries over a year as it wants, whereas Wales has a limit on how much of its own money it can spend? We'll go into that in more detail another time. Why is the justification for that? Because there isn't one. We know how we got here historically, but we are where we are now, and we need to I think the easiest argument to make is give us what Scotland has.
Yeah. Do you think that there's a chance of sort of anti-Scottish sentiment coming from all of this, which if you do play that?
I don't think so, because I think the people in Wales who are most inclined to push for more powers to Wales inherently like other nations in the UK that aren't England.
Sort of the Celtic.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a collective, we all know who the threat is here. And I think they know it's not Scotland.
But also that all of it leaves me cold, because I don't see England as a threat. I see actually the interest
of Welsh people would, though.
Yeah, they would, but I don't think that's a useful emotion, because the interests of people in Wales are aligned to most people in England. Like, most people in England are also getting pretty fucked over by an atrocious system. I think seeing England as the boogeyman is not useful in terms of driving change in Wales. I think the best thing we can actually do is say the UK as a whole doesn't work for like 98% of people here.
Do you know what's really difficult for me is that I know you're correct. Like, factually, logistically, all of that, you're correct. Emotions-wise, you can go to Ireland, you can go to Scotland, and they respect Wales as an entity. You can speak to the people who do get fucked over in the northeast of England. You tell them you're Welsh, they'll take the piss out of you. They don't see you as a serious country. Do you know what I mean? So I think there's a cultural oppressive attitude in England and amongst English people towards Welsh people that you don't get in Ireland and Scotland. That's the difference.
I mean, I suggest if you're Scottish and you went to lots of areas of England, you would be defined by those people as by your Scottishness as well.
And England's the common denominator there.
It is, but if I, as an English person, spoke to, I mean, there'll be some people in Wales who wouldn't necessarily accept me.
Yes, but I think it's really not insensitive, but I think you're missing big gaps of history as to why people feel like England is the boogeyman. And I think when I think there's a very, very valid reason as to why people do.
I think both those things can be true, right? And I think there can be areas of England which are completely being left behind. By let's maybe not say England. Let's say Surrey. Surrey are the problem. The county of Surrey, and I curse upon them all. But as you say, I've done gigs in areas of sort of working class areas of England that you might assume that are being left behind, and there is still this kind of like taffy sheep.
Yeah, they don't feel an allegiance with us.
No, I don't think so. Whereas it's a strange one. Whereas like I think of a city like Liverpool almost having that to a point, and there is like the similarities between Liverpool and Cardiff are quite high in terms of working class and like docks and that kind of stuff. But I think Wales is still looked down upon, even by those areas within England which are looked down upon.
I'm not. My contention would be, in Wales, we can only control what we can control. And part of that is our mentality towards ourselves. And I think, can I give you a quote from the historian Martin Johns?
No.
Please.
So,
close your ears.
So he said in his book, England's Colony, Wales, England's Colony, ? Really, really good book. Highly recommend it. He said, as long as we see ourselves as powerless victims in the past, it will be very difficult to stop seeing ourselves as powerless victims in the present and the future. Taking control of the future of Wales means understanding that we had power in the past too. There were certainly times when some of the Welsh were victims of violent oppression, but there were times too when the Welsh were complicit in their nation's assimilation into Britain and the assimilation of many others into the British Empire. There are problems with connecting things that happened in the past to the present day and in seeing things in the past of terms of oppression and us and them. The Welsh of today are not the same as the Welsh of the past. Given that anyone living today would have tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of ancestors alive in 1282, the year of the final part of the conquest of Wales, can anyone really claim that their ancestors were victims and not perpetrators? What proportion of someone's ancestors need to be Welsh to say they are descended from the oppressed and not the oppressors? I'm not saying that Wales's past doesn't matter and Wales's past hasn't informed where we are today. But I am saying in a time where basically devolution has come of age, Wales has exercised its democratic right to vote for they voted for something different. They voted for a party which essentially wants independence. If you want to be a self-confident nation, whether that's in the UK or outside the UK, the best way to do that is to behave as a self-confident nation. Having this kind of Celtic alliance, I think, is useful because you want to work with the component parts of the UK, and Wales's interests align with Scotland a lot in terms of wanting more powers. Whether or not you want an independent Wales and independent Scotland or not, equipping Wales and Scotland to succeed is in both our interests, and the people that prevent those powers all happen to be in London. Wales as a self-confident nation won't come from saying those people over there are the enemy and the problem. Talking about England in generalities I don't think is useful. Actually, the best way to drive the change that we would want in Wales is to make the pretty self-evident point that the UK isn't working for the vast majority of people in it. So I'm being deliberately measured about what I say here, because I don't think it's on me as someone who wasn't born in Wales to tell people in Wales, oh, don't be annoyed about X, Y, and Z.
I will say, though, I don't think it's a case of who's Welsh, because I think that's a really sticky ground to be on, because there are a lot of people who I saw on election day actually who say I wasn't Welsh either. But I think I think lived experience is what you're saying, right? I think it's more of a lived experience.
Yeah, I love Wales. It's my home. Like, I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah.
As much as I've tried to.
I know. Yeah. Despite all the horrible messages. But
train tickets through his door every single day. One way to Paddington.
I'll give you some fucking HS2 off you.
She's losing so much money.
I think said in terms of like the reality, right? And where it is actually most helpful for us to point our anger. I think you're absolutely correct. I do. I think the whole reason we started this podcast is because nobody gave a shit about Welsh politics, right? Yeah. And there's that whole for Wales see England mentality, unfortunately, does still prevail in England. That they don't see. I have family members who don't realise still that Wales is a country. Do you know what I mean? As a nation, they don't understand what Wales is. And I think when that is what you experience every time you go to England, that is why there's that sentiment. Yeah. And I think if we look back at the fact that, you know, Vaughan Gething was toppled, for want of a better word. Like, our First Minister had to step down. And what was our 5th, 6th point on UK news? Because we were just not important.
What was it, Gareth Southgate stepping down as England coach?
Like, yeah, exactly. You know, and I think that's the issue. I think that's why people are angry. And, like, you know, we're in a position now where more people across the UK will know who Andy Burnham is, then we know Iorweth.
But I think that is the point. With the next couple of weeks, I think we're going to see Burnham have those conversations about England being let down, and that's absolutely his kind of, that's what he's running on, isn't it? Yeah. I've been outside of Westminster bubble. I fought for I'm the king of the North, and I'm going to defend it. So I think those conversations are going to happen about those English areas that have been left behind.
Yeah, I actually think probably the easiest vehicle to get through Westminster for changes to devolution is if it's focused on England, and Wales and Scotland get a byproduct from it, because I think going up to MPs in Westminster, I mean, they don't give a shit, ultimately, do they? A lot of the Welsh MPs don't really give a shit about devolution. And if you're using, actually, we're changing how England is done, and Wales and Scotland get more powers as a byproduct of that, like, I don't really care why they do it, as long as Wales is better equipped to thrive.
Oh, it's so narcissistic and colonialist, isn't it, to have to go to that? Right, we'd like you to treat us better, but these are all the reasons it's actually better for you to do that.
But I think that's quite sort of that's quite clever in a way. You know, when you sort of like give someone an idea and they think it's their idea. So that's how Trump works.
I mean, this is I will say you guys are not included in this. What I'm about to say at all, right? But a lot of working with men is making them think that something was their idea. So, you know what? Sorry, Rhun, but what we need is a female First Minister, actually. Ellen, come on back. They've done it their whole lives.
The reason that Wales would probably have to get those powers kind of vicariously through other changes is, I mean, normally the system isn't built up to reflect the reality that the UK is 4 nations, isn't it? And it's supposed to be, well, it's a disunited kingdom, isn't it? But I mean, you see it from everything. You see it in the flag. You see it in the royal coat of arms, which has no Welsh representation. Like, it is everywhere. It permeates everything. I mean, the Prince of Wales is the head of the English Football Association. Yeah. Like, it permeates everything.
It's a lot of pressure on Burnham. Sort it out, Andy.
Yeah, right. What is going on?
You know what? You know who does want Burnham to be Prime Minister?
Go on.
Our Lord and Saviour, Sir Mark Drakeford.
No.
Your Lord and Saviour.
He's retired, let him have it.
So Mark Drakeford was speaking to Andy Davis from Channel 4, and he said that he thinks Keir Starmer should go. Should we hear what he said?
Yeah, go on.
Mark Drakeford, what do you think Keir Starmer should do right now?
I think Keir Starmer should set out a timetable for a change in leadership of the United Kingdom Labour Party and the United Kingdom itself. He is a decent man who works extremely hard every day to do his very best. But a combination of circumstances and capacity mean that it hasn't worked out, and it's time to recognise that and make a plan to move ahead.
Do you think he should step down?
Yeah, I think he should, but I think he should do it in a planned way, in a dignified way, in a way that allows for a smooth transition.
Why do you think he should step down?
Because I think it is irrecoverable, both his own personal standing and his ability to lead an effective government. On the doorstep, and I think quite unfairly, there was a level of hostility towards the Prime Minister, which I don't think can be recovered.
A lot of stuff to unpack there. Firstly, Andy Davis, great journalist, didn't even give him any snacks or treats like we do when we bring guests on.
Take it seriously, mate.
Rude.
Drakeford passed out as soon as
he looked famished.
Blood sugar.
That's the spiky sentiment of a hungry man. Sort it out, Davis.
But he did get the truth from him.
He did.
He did.
I really enjoyed him saying he's very studious with it and saying he should set out a timetable for him stepping. You think he should step down? Well, yes, that's exactly what I was saying. I love this timetable thing because it's pussyfooting around it. Like, set out a timetable as in like in an hour. Fuck off. That's the
I mean,
timetable.
ultimately, every prime minister has a timetable for stepping down because they're not going to be there forever.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's the dignified thing for me that he was like, he should go in a dignified way.
Yeah, and-
because none of this is dignified right now. And how many prime ministers do you ever know who've been dragged out of office in a dignified way?
Yeah, that's so true.
Because it's an ego thing, right? It's an ego. Like he wants to cling on. He should have gone weeks ago.
Yeah.
do you think?
Yeah.
Him being called a decent man, I enjoyed. I've always thought that the praise for men, he's a decent man, is so low as a bar.
Hell yeah.
He's a decent man.
He's a decent man, you know?
Imagine if he's an indecent man.
He's an indecent man. Yeah, he absolutely should have gone weeks ago. He's just dug his heels in. It's the one thing that he's actually been committed to, bizarrely.
Yeah,
Like-
ironically.
But
Yeah.
that was always the joke about him when he was leader of the opposition. What do you stand for? And he just stands for the law. And it's like, well, I've signed a 5-year contract, so I'm going to stay here. Like he's just a legal. That's
but
all
he's
he
like,
is.
But it's 5 years, so I must
Yeah.
stay.
That was a good impression as well.
Thank you. He's just very nasally.
As the glasses helped.
Yeah.
Where do you think it went so wrong for Kier Starmer?
Immediately
Was it the tickets thing?
taking clothes and tickets immediately, because after so many years of sleaze and stuff, and it wasn't just that wasn't the big blurb thing, but it was, oh, you are the same, and then sleaze within people that you've appointed. That's just Boris. If the things that the Labour Party have been criticised of in terms of stamp duty and in terms of all of this stuff over the last couple of months had happened under the Boris and the Tories, classic Tories.
Yeah.
But it's been exactly the same as the Conservative government.
I think what was one of the biggest mistakes was, firstly, people didn't want change; they wanted hope. And actually, the first thing they did was say, "Right, tighten your belts. This is
Yeah.
and
Old people.
Yeah.
Good luck.
And also, it was stuff like, I remember him being asked really early on, "Are you going to reverse the what the Tories introduced in terms of the massive restrictions on protest, because they hugely restricted people's right to protest?" And he was like, "Well, no, we're going to prioritise things that that people want us to prioritise, like growth." The priorities they had, I mean, firstly, they failed on them. But like, there was so much like low-hanging fruit that you could have done and said, demonstrably shown, we are different. I don't think it's a huge deal that like a politician takes free tickets to fucking Arsenal. But I do think when you're ran on the mantra of we are not those bastards who went before, don't fucking do it.
I think if you can't
Pay for it. Buy your own tickets to Arsenal.
If you can't make people's lives better, at least show there is a dividing line between people, and that we are not the party of sleaze.
It was such a crass lack of ambition. Like,
But look-
there's just so little that you think,
And
well, this is meaningful change.
Self-awareness as well. Like that for me, I just think being a politician is so much about self-awareness, right? And it's like the taking the tickets thing. What a stupid thing for the ball to start getting away from you.
Yeah.
For.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it doesn't. I don't think people really give a shit about that. We all know politicians get cushy things for free all the time, but it's the self-awareness, right? You've run on this, done this. We're not everybody else, and now you've done the exact. And the first go,
Yeah.
the first try.
I think they tried so hard to do this Blair era of first one, we'll make some tough decisions and then we'll sort it out in the second one. But times have changed. Like there isn't that.
The
There isn't
economy
that
was
time
inherently
now.
on the up anyway. Like, yeah, absolutely. And the stuff around like the changes to employers' NI contributions was such a like regressive thing to do. The stuff around pensions, the stuff on disability. There was so many better ways to communicate and do things. The disdain they had for the devolved nations. The only place that saw a drop ahead of the general election for Labour was Wales. And they just took it completely for granted that they were always going to win there. It was going to be tough. I mean, the media were going for him. The social media algorithms were going for him. It was a fucking hard situation, but by God, did he make it easy for them.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. But what Drakeford was saying about like, he doesn't think the level of unpopularity that Starmer had on the doorstep is justified. You kind of, on a similar way, he got dealt with it at a bad time, just like Elena did. Like you come into this thing and then, Ukraine is happening, Iran is happening, all these extra things are happening that maybe stops the levers that you can do to make people's lives better. But do the basics right.
Yeah. The U-turning as well that made it look like, oh,
It's just, just more of
we
the
are
same.
wrong, you're actually right.
If you walk into a house that stinks of gas, and there is clearly a gas leak, you have been put in a really tricky position. If you then light up a fucking cigar,
Yeah,
that's on you.
That is so on you.
Like, open some windows. Like, let the gas out. And he didn't do that.
Somebody who I think is doing well PR-wise in the last month or so, I would say, actually, very differently, is Kemi Badenoch. I don't see an awful lot of her. Obviously, the main news has not been on her, but you see her popping up on the odd podcast here and there. I saw a clip came up a couple of days ago of her talking about reform in the Tories, and she'd be like, anybody who thinks that reform is just like the Tories, you're completely wrong. I want to thank Nigel Farage for taking all the rubbish out of our party, and it's like setting a bomb off in your enemy's house and all of this. And I was like, what is bad is that the Conservatives won't let her be the leader when they want to actually take things seriously. Whereas actually,
you don't think so? This is the kind of the little generation gap between the next one. And she's had big supporters across the pond. Nicki Minaj tweeting praise of her clip at PMQs as well.
I will say that there was one, she was probably like, please don't, Nicki, please don't.
Sure.
Because Nicki Minaj is having a bit of...
She gone quite MAGA.
So MAGA.
Is she?
So MAGA. But then there is conspiracy theories that there's a lot on
They've
her.
got something on her.
Yeah, basically.
Really?
Yeah. I won't get into it now because I feel like it's not what our listeners want.
No,
but
bitches saying shit when they ain't saying nothing.
Wow.
Okay.
I don't think we can top that.
No, I don't think we can.
That's
Let's
where we
wrap
end.
this bitch up.
It's been really lovely to be back, and the next time I see you will be at our live show, our sold-out live show.
Saturday.
Really, really exciting. So looking forward to seeing you there if you've got tickets.
Yes, absolutely. Can't wait.
Yeah, it should be fun. I've been Robin Morgan.
I've been Mel Owen.
And I'm Will Hayward.
Bye.